CIG has shown us some pretty amazing things over the years. We can say it would be great if it all worked out of the box, but, they have shown us some pretty cool stuff. The clouds around Orison, something that's going to spread out to the rest of the game. Planets and worlds out there that are, actual planets and worlds. It's pretty impressive stuff. And it seems that they've taken another quantum leap forward in technology, but this time in the field of animatronics. Today, CIG unveiled their animatronic Chris Roberts. Once again, obviously, as you know, we talk about Star Citizen conspiracies here, and we know that Chris Roberts has been missing for almost the entirety of the Great Plague so far, and I guess they're just trying to kind of keep us, all together and, happy and excited for the game. And, it was a pretty convincing animatronic Chris Roberts. It did all the hand motions. It was pretty amazing. You should check out the video. But I think we can all, kind of see through the cracks here. And we know that this isn't really Chris Roberts, and rather the product of one demented madman. Obviously, Jared has been locked away by himself at the HQ, and he's been building this animatronic Chris Roberts for the last year. And this is just to try to convince us that he's still alive. But, oh yeah, Chris, you're moving to the UK for Squadron 42 reasons. How convenient, what great timing. Of course. I'm kidding, of course. I'm just having some fun. Or am I? No. But there was a funny comment on the hacking video. Someone said, I think the episode you should do, I believe it was Jag Hiroshi, I'm sorry if I'm getting that incorrect, said the episode that you need to do is one where you discuss how you've maintained enthusiasm for like the last 9 years. It's an interesting question, and I think that I was well on the way. In around 2016, 2015, I was well on the way to being like the angry citizen. But then, around 2017, around 2018, it became more like watching Star Citizen develop. It became more of like, an interesting thing to watch, and there's times when I make videos and I get something totally wrong, right? Like the water instead of blood thing, or when I put out that video about quantum drives, not realizing that they had just changed quantum drives and how they work. But and I've gotten things wrong, and you get a bit of like a little crisis of confidence. Like, am I really in a place to be commenting on these things? But then again, we hear Chris Roberts just in this recent video talking about, the app and the Moby Glass that we use for personal inventory. He's basically saying it sucks, and we should move more towards a paper doll model. And I'm just like, yeah, I've been saying that for years. It's simple. You don't need to go over the top. Not everything has to be procedural and bespoke and all the other fancy words. It just has to work. You can come back and polish it up later. What you need is something that basically works. And another thing that kind of, when I was watching that video and he was talking about, we want to deliver more like finished and complete systems to the game. And that kind of blew me away, because I know there's probably a lot of fans out there who would be like, yeah, we want more finished and complete systems. But at the same time, I was sitting there going like, well, how can they be finished and complete if the game isn't finished and complete, and you're not really sure what all the requirements of those systems are going to be? And I'm not just talking about the visual interface, but, so many other like things that could happen with the community, or how the community wants to do something, that you might find that, we're actually delivering this in a very, in a bad way, and there's a better way to do it. We're going to be finding out a lot of these things over the next few years as these systems are coming online. Hopefully salvage at some point, different ships. So there's no real way that you can deliver a finished or complete system. And now maybe he misspoke and he just meant more polished or more reliable. Maybe. maybe that's exactly what he meant, and if that's it, then absolutely good idea. Poor choice of words, but all right, I'm on board. But in watching this thing kind of develop, and in watching other video games that I play kind of turn, like, Star Citizen has always been like this kind of like slow burning fuse towards like disaster. And it may or may not end up being a disaster. It's kind of like, it's, you're watching this thing and it's just like, it's like watching somebody carrying a tray full of drinks and they kind of stumble and they're trying to recover, and you're just like, oh, is it gonna fall? No, it's not gonna fall. Oh, is it gonna fall? As they lean this way and that way, and so it's become kind of entertainment for me in that way. And at the same time, I've found it very interesting to watch this and to watch other gaming communities and how they evolve and how they deal with bad news and setbacks. And I mean, certainly I've been front row and center on one of the most tragic declines of a video game ever, and kind of watching that, sitting side by side with watching Star Citizen, I think that's kind of given me a lot of insights into how game developers think. I find that from my perspective, it seems that game developers, they kind of become their own worst enemies. In a way, they fixate on problems that to them are very important, but to the gaming community at large, they're really not that big a deal. And I think that they try to over-engineer solutions, like, let's take this on in a systemic and bespoke way. Let's come up with a whole system that handles this thing. It's like, you don't need to do all that. Just make it work. Just make it work. It's like, no, I want it to be, I want it to be 3D, and I want it to collect points of data from all these other things, and so the user can sort it this way and that way and the other way. It's just like, no, I just need something to buy and sell. Right now, I just need something to buy and sell. Right now, I just need a system that allows me to put up a mission that says, hey, I've got a size 4 gun at Area 18. I need it transported to Grim Hex. That would be great. It could be almost entirely text-based. It could look like something from the 80s. I wouldn't give a crap. I just need something that works right now. You can come back and polish it up later. Whereas with a game developer, it's like, no, I'm putting my stamp, I'm putting my seal on this. It's got to be amazing. And I think that in being that fascinated with how they solve or how they tackle problems, that they lose the perspective of the customer. In a way, developing the video game kind of becomes a video game, and they're not really seeing it as the finished product. They're seeing it as these thin little slices that each and every team member is responsible for, rather than seeing the whole experience. And they can't kind of step back, whereas as an observer, as a watcher, as a player, you kind of, you're not just worrying about, is my Coke can going to stay in the forest a week after I'm, gone, because really, who cares? I would just rather, be able to, go hunting in the forest, or go mining in the forest, or, go salvaging in the forest. If someone's Coke can is there from like a week ago, fascinating, but I don't care. It's like, oh, wow, that's cool, but it doesn't really matter. When they were talking about the NPCs standing on chairs, and they were talking about, oh, hopefully this is going to fix it, once we get the server meshing thing done, no dates, of course, but, when we get it done. That was really great. It was a good thing to hear, but at the same time, NPCs standing on chairs is just kind of like a funny thing. I would be more interested, not so much in that, but what other performance, pickups that we're going to get out of that, and what other systems might that allow us to integrate into the game. fixing the NPCs standing on chairs, certainly very important, kind of destroys immersion. But at the same time, I don't know. For me, I find it kind of funny now. Like, I'm waiting for the day that when they go to host a Citizen Con and people are just, instead of sitting in their chairs in the little theater when they do their, thing, that all the people are just, as a joke, snapping photos of them all standing on their chairs and T-posing or something like that. I'm waiting for that meme to get started in the community, Or just, someone to cook up a Photoshop of like Chris Roberts and family sitting down for dinner and they're all, standing on their chairs and looking at their plates, in a T pose. And they're like, so now we know how this got started. So yeah, that's kind of what Star Citizen has become for me. It's never really been a game. Obviously, it's, as you can see, it's been a deeply troubled demo. I find that it's a fascinating insight into game developers these days. It's kind of like watching that Gold Rush TV show and seeing how they kind of go about solving all their problems and things like that. And, I guess if I were someone who studied psychology or anything like that, it would be also pretty fascinating to watch and just see sometimes how, like, the obvious solution to the problem gets ignored because, the solution has to be so overwrought and overdone and so, innovative that they just kind of ignore the obvious, like, hey, why don't we use like a paper doll like every other MMO does for personal inventory? No, we got to do something new, different, 3D, holographic, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, you don't. You've got enough innovation here, to last a lifetime. What you need is functionality. And so, yeah, it's just watching that. It's the same thing, when I'm watching, dev interviews with World of Warcraft devs, and I'm just sitting there and I'm just scratching my head and I'm like, yeah, I don't even know if you really play your game anymore. Like, do you even understand? It's become kind of like a fascinating hobby to kind of watch this develop. And so I feel emotionally a little removed from it now. I still want to play the game. I'm still excited to fly the Corsair. I can't wait to have, fully functional tractor beams and cargo theft and stuff like that. I'm dying for that stuff to get into the game, but it's just not as, as critical as like, oh, I need it now type thing as, it might have been in the past. I don't know. That's just how I maintain my quote-unquote enthusiasm for Star Citizen. It's easier to just touch base with this thing every few days than to sit there and read Spectrum every day, because that will truly drive you nuts.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in the Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.